Maria's Child by Bill Hearn. Copyright 2021. Available in Kindle and paperback editions through Amazon Books. Read by the author. Logos. When I was first asked to speak, I planned to give a brief account of the goals and accomplishments of the Brethren. But after spending a week here and seeing you at work, I've decided to tell a story instead. Imagine a lifeboat. Imagine, too, that when the ship it came from sank, all of the survivors were partly to blame. 12 had scrambled on board, carrying food and fresh water. 12 saved only themselves. Though islands can be glimpsed on every horizon, some of the survivors say one island is nearer, while others point another way, so the oars remain shipped and idle. When some of those with water share, their fellows call them traitors, and some of the thirsty curse the gift and its givers, saying they haven't given enough. By the third night, those without water are mad with thirst, and those with water realize that what they've brought won't last much longer. So they fight, and as they fight, the water bottles break, and the spilt water is ruined by the hardened salt spray in the bottom of the boat. After the battle, those left alive huddle in two groups, one in the bow, the other in the stern. They don't sleep, they don't row, they just wait, growing weaker and weaker, hoping someone will rescue them. Joshua Grant, at a 2028 UN Conference on World Hunger, attended by about 240 delegates. Joshua Grant, founder of the Brethren of Charity, a small relief organization active in India and Bangladesh, was expected to provide the conference with one of its few non-political moments. But his 1-minute speech, an Aesop's fable mocking the name-calling and public posturing that have marred the conference, was non-political only in that it offended the representatives of every government present. INN News. Jesus is coming soon, and this time he'll really be pissed. Popular bumper sticker, first seen around 2025. Chapter 1, 5 a.m., Atlanta, Georgia, December 2032. Even before I see Joshua's face, I know who's calling and why. He's acted quickly. It's been less than a week since we told him of his mother's illness. Leukemia is rarely fatal these days, but the diagnosis is pretty much guaranteed this call. "Hello, Peter," my stepson says. I turn on the video feed and take in his current incarnation, clean-shaven, short-haired, his skin a world-average light brown, a shade supposedly inherited from his Cuban mother. His expression is as gloomy and tired as the weather outside my window, a slow, sad drizzle that promises worse to come. "You look exhausted," I tell him. "You look a bit sleepy yourself." "Well, it's 5 a.m. here, and raining." His face lights up, rueful but amused. "I'm sorry, I thought it was 7 there. You're usually up by 7. "That's all right. I can take a nap this afternoon." "How's Mom?" "Much better. I'm going to see her in a few hours. How's Bangladesh?" "Actually, I'm in New Delhi." He straightens, and in anticipation I sit up also. "I need to ask you something. I called Mom yesterday at the hospital, but—" "How did I miss that? I was there most of the day." "I called while you were out getting a cup of coffee, I guess. But anyway, I couldn't ask her about this straight out. I didn't want to upset her. Even so, I have the feeling that if I had asked directly, she still wouldn't know anything about it. How about you?" "How about me what?" I respond, a bit peevishly. "If you want me to answer a question, you have to ask it first." "All right," Joshua says, his eyes suddenly boring into mine. "Who am I?" And there it is, the question I've been asking myself for 33 years. "You're Joshua Grant," I tell him, knowing all too well that's not the answer he wants. "What do you mean?" "Well, the problem is this. I wanted to donate my bone marrow. Mom's doctor said they might need to do a transplant, and I'm an obvious choice for a donor. But the DNA test came back saying I'm not related to my own mother." I say nothing, but the look on my face must be enough. "I can see you're not surprised," Josh continues. "So why not let me in on the secret?" "It would make sense if I was adopted, but then how do you explain all the family photos of Mom quite pregnant?" "You weren't adopted." "Then explain the DNA test." "It takes a lot of explaining. We'll need to talk about it face to face. He sighs. There's no way I can leave India right now, but I have to come to the States in 2 weeks. Can we talk then? In 2 weeks? Sure. Shall I give your mother your best wishes in the meantime? This comes out with a bit of venom. When Maria's cancer was diagnosed, I wanted Josh to come home right away, even when Maria said he had more important things to do than watch a sick old woman sleep. Don't just give her my best wishes, Joshua says softly. Tell her I love her. I don't need to, I answer. She knows that already. I don't try to go back to sleep. Instead, I fix some coffee and head into town. By 7:20, I'm parking outside Grady Memorial. Grady is an old hospital, grimy and run down, but it's where Maria wanted to go. It's the only Atlanta hospital that still takes charity cases, and they need paying customers. Since they need our money, Maria even consented to a private room. She's eating breakfast when I come in, or trying to. She's still nauseated from the last round of chemo. We sit and watch the Net V for a while, but when I look over at 7:50, I see she's drifted off to sleep. I lean back in my chair, hoping to join her. The morning's drizzle has changed to a driving rain, courtesy of Hurricane Wanda, which hit the coast late last night and is still at tropical storm strength even after traveling inland to Atlanta. The rain drowns the hospital noises, so I'm almost asleep when a new sound joins its monotonous drumming. Maria is dreaming. I lean close. Chemo has made her prone to nightmares, and she likes me to wake her before they really get going. But this is no nightmare. She smiles, breathes deeply, murmurs, Joe. Joe was her first husband, Joshua's supposed father. Though Joe has been gone for some 27 years, I still rank second in Maria's affections, and lately I've become quite calm about it. She dreams about me too, but there's a lilt to her voice whenever she says his name. Listening to this dream would be rude, so I grab the remote and cautiously turn up the Net V's volume. It's tuned to a news channel, and suddenly the story I've been ignoring is over and a new one begins. I see my stepson striding across the screen, followed by a large group in Western and Indian dress. In New Delhi, India, the netcaster informs us, Joshua Grant, founder of the Brethren of Charity, led a march to pray in front of the Golden Mosque, headquarters of the Muslim sect that recently called for the death of all Brethren members. Bani Sadr Akhmani, the sect's head, insists the Brethren's claims of pacifism and religious tolerance are lies, a ploy to lull good Muslims into complacency. The Brethren's reaction? They're praying for the continued health and happiness of Akhmani, and Grant has added further prayers asking God's wisdom, love, and good sense to descend upon Bani Sadr. Despite warnings of violence, the prayer vigil was mostly peaceful, although a few rocks were thrown by hostile Hindus and Muslims. As if on cue, 3 plum-sized chunks come whizzing at Joshua. 2 miss, but the third strikes him a glancing blow. Josh winces, grabs quickly at his shoulder, then walks on. I'm more affected than he is, or was. This is a news summary. It all took place hours before this morning's call. But even so, it's another reminder that a rock, bomb, or bullet could nail Joshua any time, a thought I like even less than hearing Maria dream about Joe. So I change the channel, but there's no escaping the news. Maria has logged her preferences into the remote. Altering her programming is beyond me, but I punch some random buttons anyway, hoping to find an old movie. Instead, I get the usual mix of world misery, Sufi dervishes blocking construction of a new Jews-only apartment block on the West Bank, Bangladesh suing the U.S., the European Union, India, and China for greenhousing their country into the Bay of Bengal, Wanda ranking as the strongest December hurricane ever, and the U.S. planning to veto the UN CO2 tariff for the 7th consecutive year. But one button push brings a surprise. God's Warriors, hosted by America's #1 internet evangelist, Harold Pierpont Anthony. Maria claims my obsession with Anthony borders on psychosis, but this preset proves that she likes to keep an eye on our old nemesis herself. Anthony's in his early 80s, but he could pass for 55. Ever since stem cells got him out of his wheelchair, he's been a covert consumer of every age-delaying treatment imaginable, including, if rumors are true, a replacement kidney purchased from a poor Mexican farmer, a transaction which would have been illegal as recently as 2025. "Well, Art," Anthony says to his genial sidekick, "I see that God's wrath has struck several Indonesian islands. Folks, this string of disasters is a clear sign. God's patience with those who refuse to see His glory is wearing thin." "You jackass," I mutter. "They're dying because we fucked up their weather." "These disasters upset some so-called Christians," Anthony continues, still beaming, "because the Bible tells us that pagans like most of those killed are going to burn in hell. This has troubled me in the past as well, but I've prayed about it, and last night God gave me the answer." "Oh, really?" I mumble. "In these last days our Lord has looked ahead and identified those who will never accept Him. He has caused more and more of these already lost to be born in the godless and God-forsaken countries of the world. Other faiths are lies of the devil, and their members should and will be obliterated. Anyone who tells you different is no Christian." Well, I think, the heathen are already goners in the great barbecue to come, or perhaps subtly less than human? How convenient to be absolved of all guilt ourselves. Anthony states this new spin on predestination with so little fanfare that most of his guests merely nod. But then, Anthony's disciples make an art of hearing without listening, speaking without thinking. And that's the problem. If they knew what I knew, I have little doubt that they would judge Joshua solely by how he was conceived, by who he is, ignoring the good he's done since the day he was born. One panel member does squirm a bit, a newcomer named Nicholas Preston. I suspect he's Anthony's token moderate, though Anthony's idea of a moderate is usually my idea of a lunatic. Crazy or not, this gentleman looks like he might be working up the courage to argue about Anthony's latest email from the Almighty. But the show moves on to less flammable topics, and the man keeps his silence. As well he might, because even to a heathen like me, it's obvious that Harold Anthony has taken another small step in his very own jihad.